Ladies and gentlemen, let's gaming video, we're going to be discussing all things related to CPUs. Both AMD and Intel have released some key information regarding the upcoming platforms, and in this video, of course, we're going to be discussing just that, and we're going to be starting out with AMD. So, as we're all aware, AMD are going to be releasing Zen over the next year or so, but there has been some discussion in the past regarding socket types. So as it stands, both Intel and AMD currently have a bit of fragmentation going on in the marketplace when it comes to the CPUs. I won't go through Intel's in this video because it's not really pertinent, but for AMD, they have AM3, they've got FM2, plus they've got AM1 for various things. So for the sake of argument, Athlons and Semprons are using AM1, you've got AM3 with the FX series and FM2 for various APUs, and it's just a little bit messy. It's not an ideal situation because, let's say, for the sake of argument, you buy one set of processors and then later on you decide to repurpose the rig. You can't easily do that, and while of course some processors do definitely have cross-compatibility, you may just be SOL with your particular hardware setup. That's not going to be the case for the future. Speaking to PC World, James Pryor from AMD has said that both Zen-based CPUs and APUs, which are referred to as Summit Ridge and Bristol Ridge if you want to go by the code names, are going to have one thing in common, and no, smart ass, it's not the fact they're going to be Zen based, it's that they will be based upon the AM4 platform, which of course in itself means you're going to have things which are shiny such as DDR4 and all of the other upcoming technologies. Now AMD have been really listening to the customers recently, which is obviously a good thing, and one of the things that we cited for our review of the Radeon R9 380X, which we really liked, is the fact that they have been working on listening to customer feedback. For example, AMD drivers, they've been pretty rock solid, never had crashes or anything like that, just like Nvidia's, at the end of the day, they work, but I definitely felt that AMD's drivers were a little bit behind the curve when it came to usability, and one of the things of course was the fact that they didn't have downsampling. You can just tick a box, whereas now you can, and Nvidia's you always, well not always, but for some time you have been able to. The fact it was a lot easier to tweak various applications, and it's just an improvement. They're starting to improve the release of their driver revisions, and that's obviously a good thing. So moving on to the Intel side of things, as we all know, Intel are working on Broadwell-E. Now, the highest end of these processors is going to be called the unwieldy name of the i7-6950X. The bad news is, it's going to be a little bit expensive, which isn't particularly surprising because, let's face it, we didn't expect these things to be costing like $2.50 or free in a Christmas cracker. Unfortunately, they're really expensive. They're going to cost around $1,500 US, of course, which is a lot of money. They are a 10-core processor, however, and they, of course, naturally will come with hyperthreading. Now, I think it's fair to say that a lot of customers are just not going to want to opt for that, and there are a lot of CPUs that are going to be coming out with the Broadwell-E range. I'm not going to read out their full specifications because I'll be here until Christmas, but suffice to say, I'm going to read out the core count. You can just double it if you want the thread count, because if each of these have hyperthreading, you've got 10, 8, 6, and 6 cores. So the top of the line one obviously is 950X, then you've got the 6900K, which has 8, then you've got the 6850K, which has 6, and then you've got the 6800K, which has 6, but the difference here is in clock speeds. The 6800 runs slower, and it might also have other issues, like for the sake of argument, it have, let's say, lower turbo frequencies or lower quality silicon, you know what I mean. These will still be running, however, on the LGA 2011 3 socket, which means X99 chipset, with, of course, memory support of DDR4 2400, at least officially. Now, the launch price for the lowest end model is only going to be $390 US. I say only in the loosest possible sense because obviously it's still quite a large chunk of change. but compared to 1500, it's quite cheap. Now, the launch date for these chips is not 100% confirmed, but it's probably going to be around mid this year. The second quarter, maybe slipping into the third quarter, in other words around, let's say June, July 2016. Potentially everything's going to be officially unveiled at Computex, but you know what paper and actual physical launches can be, and then you've got the price gouging. So depending on the actual yields of the silicon and just the luck of the gods, you may be not really physically able to get them till like July, August time, depending on, well, just luck really. Now, it's kind of an odd timing, because considering that what we know about the Zen-based processors, I think a lot of customers are going to kind of feel, at least I would, I mean, at the end of the day I'm probably going to have to buy these out my own money, so I'm going to, I mean, potentially I might get review samples, but if I was buying it out of my own money, let's put it this way, I would not jump on the Intel Broadwell-E the same as if it was Zen that was launching first. I wouldn't jump on that. And I know what you're going to say, yes, you can theoretically wait forever and a day for new processor launches, but I think when it's something so intrinsic and so expensive as a high-end processor, I mean, maybe if you're going for something really low-end and or you're using it for as like a media center, fair enough. But if you're going to be using it as like the base of a gaming system for 2 or 3 years and you want to plunk down a lot of money, I think there's a lot to say, especially if you've got a reasonable system, to wait until Zen launches. Obviously, it could be that Zen doesn't launch until, I don't know, late December for all we know, but realistically it's looking like it's going to be kind of early fourth quarter, if early fourth quarter made any sense. So personally I'd wait on it just to see what happens, but obviously it is your monies. It's going to be kind of cool though, because with the Broadwell-E you have the option for both unlocked multiplier and base clock multiplier, base clock overclocking, if that made sense, as well. Which means theoretically you're going to be able to tweak the down processor quite a lot. Unfortunately, we don't know so much about Zen overclocking. I wish we did, and we don't even know, to be fair, the clock speed Zen's going to be running at. I mean, I'm going to guess between 3 to 4 gigahertz, but obviously it could be that it's running at 5,000 billion megahertz. That's a lot of megahertz. At the end of the day, we just don't have the exact specifications of either processors yet. It's going to be kind of cool though. I think 2016 is going to be a really good year for the desktop if you're looking for high-end processing performance. At the end of the day, yes, I personally would feel that, you know, the 6950X, if you're a gamer, is probably not really going to be for you, and I can see a lot of gamers opting for either the 6900K, the 6850K, or finally, of course, the 6800K. And honestly, depending on how well the 6800K overclocks, I could see it being a really attractive alternative to, let's say, the 6700K, because the 6700K at the end of the day is just a 4-core, 8-thread CPU. So, because of the price gouging at the moment with that CPU, I can definitely see why a lot of gamers would just say, you know what, bollocks to this, I'm going to just opt for an X99 platform. And of course there is that benefit as well, where you've got some really good deals at the moment for the, let's say, the 5820K. It's actually pretty cheap considering the amount of cores that you get, that raw amount of performance. And honestly, if I was going to buy a new high-end CPU at the moment, I would not actually be jumping onto Skylake. I would definitely be buying the 5820K or something along those lines anyway. Hopefully you've enjoyed the video. I'll see you soon. Take care. Bye for now.